Hopefully everyone can see our slide deck. Should be on the cover slide. It says, please stand by as attendees are joining. Hopefully everyone can see our slide deck. Should be on the cover slide. So, okay, that's the live YouTube feed. It's about a 20-second delay. So that's working. So I want to welcome folks that are joining us for tonight's San Marino City Club virtual forum. We're going to be starting in about 2 minutes, so just hang tight.
Do you have an update for me for Chief Rueda?
Chief Rueda is available to speak. So
Okay.
Chief Rueda, do you want to say something so that we can hear you? I see that you are muted.
I'm here. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Great.
We hear you. Thank you. Okay, it is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to welcome all of our attendees that are joining our virtual town hall today. Good evening, San Marino City Club members and guests. My name is Steve Choi, and I have the honor of volunteering for the City Club board, and it's also my pleasure to be your webinar host tonight. I'll be working behind the scenes, and as you may have noticed, this webinar will be recorded, and it will be posted on the City Club website. Now, to ensure the best webinar experience for everyone, all of our attendees are muted so that we can hear and see our panel of featured speakers. The attendees may submit questions during this meeting by using the Q&A feature. Simply click the Q&A button, type in your question, and click submit. We're expecting about 100 attendees to join tonight's webinar, which just about approaches our webinar capacity. And for any attendees that do join our webinar after the capacity threshold, they will be redirected to our YouTube live stream where they can still enjoy our program. And just one final tip, because there is the potential for a rotating power outage. Should the meeting get disrupted, just go ahead and leave the meeting, sign out of the meeting and rejoin, and then we will reconvene should there be a power outage. So without further delay, here is your San Marino City Club President, Mr. Lauren Kleinrock.
Welcome. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and thank you all for tuning in, if you will. This is not really a San Marino City Club event. Basically, this is an event where we are hosting for the city to be able to talk to you about some things that are important that are going to affect all of us in town, certainly the City Club. And so we are going to really turn the meeting over to them fairly quickly. Basically, first thing I'm going to ask you to do is stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll get back with the format for tonight. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated, please. Okay, very short with respect to City Club business tonight. We are in the midst of our Zoom sequence of productions, if you will. Got a couple of City Club meetings and they've gone well. And tonight is the first one that we are actually hosting on behalf of the city, hopefully not the last one. We've been very appreciative of the city's support of us. And so we're gonna work to make sure we can facilitate their needs as best we can as we move forward. We do have a couple of upcoming Zoom meetings scheduled in September. State Senator Anthony Portantino will be joining us. He's going to speak about economic development in the San Gabriel Valley, the COVID-19 virus, and the impact of both on San Marino. And on October 20th, the Carnegie Observatories, the Carnegie Institute for Science, will provide us with John Mulcahy, the Greenwald Chair and Director, and with Erica Clark, Strategic Initiative Coordinator. So got some good things coming up. Unfortunately, in November, the Rose Court will not be available. They are not doing meetings, Zoom or otherwise, and we're working on some alternatives. We know we've got some people that can step in there, but we will not have our normal Rose Court presentation in November. So tonight, specifically, I am going to introduce Dr. Marcela Merlo, and then she will introduce Chief Mario Rueda, who is going to talk about city and county updates on responses to the COVID, and Chief John Incontro, who is going to do theft prevention and community engagements. So first of all, my pleasure to introduce Dr. Merlo. She came to us, our career started with the city of Calabasas as a human resources generalist, spent 2 years with the city of Phoenix, Arizona. Before that, specializing in classification and compensation. She then started her career with the city of Calabasas as a human resources generalist. And following that, she also was served as the human resources manager for the city of Duarte. I don't know what this means, but she's the only person to ever hold that position there. That could be a really good thing or a not good thing. I don't know what to make of that. But fortunately, after that, she was the moving closer to our home here, manager for the city of San Gabriel for 6.5 years. And then San Marino's good fortune to have Dr. Merlo as our city manager since 2017. You're not that old, 2017. So Dr. Merlo, if you would like to introduce your guest, it's yours.
I would be delighted to. Thank you so much for having us. I'm so sorry that you managed to locate my bio somewhere. I did not intend for you to have to go through all of that. And I agree, it could be good news or bad news that Duarte never selected another HR manager again.
I skipped the part that said you're an avid Trojan fan, because if you kind of notice on the bookshelf behind me, I've got a
oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
that was too bad.
Even no less.
Yeah, I thought that was unfortunate. Well, thank you so much for having us. We are delighted to be here. City Club is an important partner for us, and we always enjoy having the chance to be here. Usually I get to enjoy by just sitting in the audience and being a spectator. And I loved being in my casual clothes when we heard Randy from the Huntington speak last time, but I'm in my fancy clothes today, and we're very pleased to be your guest. We really appreciate it so much. So we'll kick off our 5-minute speaker intros. And as you mentioned, first will be Chief Rueda, and then it'll be Chief Incontro. So Chief Rueda, I'm delighted to turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm not sure my bio could match up with that bio, but congratulations on all those positions. But, I did want to, before the group got on, I heard Chief Incontro talking about the firefighters running into fires, but I do think police and fire do have one thing in common, is they all wanted to be firefighters. So it is one thing John and I talk about, and candidly, I think Chief Incontro and I have one of the best relationships between police and fire departments, and I'm really proud and pleased to have him as a partner. And I think one of the things we do exceptionally well is we won't let this community get surprised by problems. So we're constantly talking, looking at the what's around the corner for the city and making sure that we take care of our residents. But I did want to take a few minutes just to talk about a few recent updates and then our response to coronavirus. I think everybody's been getting the alerts from Southern California Edison, and really they're coming from the state that the grid at certain times of day is being overwhelmed, and there's the potential for power outages. And they're doing them in 1 hour increments. And our sister city of San Marino, of South Pasadena, actually did get shut down for an hour the other night. And we have had power outages, but for a different reason. We had a small fire on St. Albans, wires arcing. It leaped to a wood shingle roof. We put that out quickly, but we did have several residents that were without power for a period of time. And I think I wouldn't be surprising anybody by talking about the heat wave and at least the public messaging that police and fire departments put out with respect to taking care of yourself and make sure you're not doing anything to put yourself in harm's way with respect to the heat wave. We do have two firefighters, a Brian Campbell and a Dave Tannehill, that are both out on assignment as fire line paramedics. They are embedded with the crews that are, Brian Campbell is at the Apple Fire and Dave Tannehill's at the Lake Fire. And both of those are embedded with crews that are fighting the fire, and it is very arduous work, and there's really a lot to consider if somebody's injured, how they're going to treat them and get them off the line and get them to a hospital from very remote locations. So it's really a challenging work, and I do appreciate that we have several firefighters that have stepped up to volunteer to do that work, and they bring tremendous value back to our city with the experience they gain, and I'm proud of those two firefighters. I want to, for a minute, just touch on COVID. I think everybody's been saturated in news and the newspaper and reports, but I want to take you back to January 24th, where the City of San Marino, we published our first messaging on the coronavirus and the novelty, and that this was potentially coming our way. And leap ahead to March 4th, where the governor then declared a state of emergency. The city followed suit. On March 17th, our city council proclaimed a local emergency to make sure we had everything in place, the authorities in place, the purchasing rules were in place for us to procure PPE. And I'll leap ahead, not to belabor this, but I'll leap ahead to August 12th, where the Department of Public Health published their recent orders where they discussed public school openings, which came out in their order. This virus, unfortunately, has not gone away, and it still continues to be with us, and probably with us for a period of time. Although the news is the news that we're receiving from County Health and our Emergency Medical Services Agency is encouraging, that they're in the final stage of testing for vaccines and therapeutics, but we're not there yet. And we are in stage 3 of the county's 5-stage openings, and stage 3 came with restrictions, which unfortunately all of us are unfortunately bearing the brunt of those restrictions. But in our city, that means our city remains closed. Although you can make an appointment for most of our services and other things that were part of our previous normal, gyms, personal care, restaurants are still not open as a result. The city, I think one of the best things that both the police and fire departments jumped on early was doing outreach and setting up a resident support hotline, because I don't know of any other city where you can pick up the phone and get a live person, basically 5 days a week. And if we can't help you, we'll figure out a way to help you. And that service has really proved to be helpful for a number of our senior residents that can't get out, they can't get to things. And we've got nothing but accolades, and that's been a collaboration with the recreation department using some of their employees. And I can't tell you just how proud I am of the outreach they've done and some of the things they've stepped in to fill gaps for our residents. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on a number that we watch very closely. In Los Angeles County, we have roughly 10.5 million people. So back in April 13th, when the virus was first starting to be widely spread, in Los Angeles County, we had 1,420 telemedicine beds, basically beds that could be monitored, and 292 ICU beds. So contrast those numbers to July 15th, when we started to see the results from people maybe not being as careful as they should. And the numbers dipped from 1,420 to 497 monitored beds in LA County. And even more concerning, we got to a low point of 67 ICU beds, 67 ICU beds for 10.5 million people. That's a very slim margin of error for all of us. On Thursday, August 13th, the Los Angeles County reported new numbers that the numbers are actually getting better for us. We're back up to 544 monitored hospital beds and 131 intensive care beds. So those are much better numbers. Those availability of hospital beds is something we watch closely, because just the margin of error for all of us is so slight. But we're not out of it yet. We continue to ask people to wear masks to be careful, to be cautious, wash your hands. And if you don't have to leave your house, it's probably a good idea that you don't, particularly if you happen to be high risk. So that's my comments for tonight, and I am available for any questions that you have.
All right, thanks, Chief. Unless Steve Choi tells me that there are questions, we'll move on to Chief Incontro.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Marcel.
Thank you, boss. I want to first of all thank you for allowing us to take the time to speak to you tonight and to inform you of what's going on in the city from our different perspectives. Chief Rueda is very generous in his compliments, but I think what helps the city and helps the police and fire department to serve you is the relationship that we have. We've known each other for many years. We both have the dedication to serve, to protect, and to do the best we can for this community because it is so important to all of us. Tonight, I just want to talk about a few little things. One of them is crime, and let you know some of the things that we're doing about it. We'll talk a little bit about community engagement. And then finally, I just want to touch on some of the police reform issues that you may have heard in the news or you may be following that are going on throughout the country and the state especially. First of all, on crime, we've had an uptick of crime during this COVID crisis. It's related to a lot of different things. It's related to the zero bail for all but 14 different crimes, serious violent felonies. It is related to the release of people from county jail and the state prisons at a very high rate because of COVID. It's also related to the fact that the opportunists out there are taking advantage of all of us. The biggest area that we've had an increase is thefts, or we call those larcenies, and three areas in particular. Thefts from vehicles that are left unlocked. The folks are leaving items that are clearly visible from the outside of the car, and they're items of value, or they may just open a unlocked door, go through the ashtray, the different compartments, take whatever small items. Some people keep some pretty expensive sunglasses or some other items of value. Or you may put your garage door opener, or for some of you, unfortunately, you leave your key fob. That has happened in the city a couple times, and those folks temporarily lost their cars. We're able to recover them. What I'm asking is the thing we've talked about forever is hide it, lock it, keep it. Hide it in your trunk, hide it inside your house when you leave. Don't leave it visible. You're going to keep it, and make sure you lock your doors. And if you have an alarm on your car, turn on your alarm. The other areas are gardeners who work so hard and try and make our homes look so beautiful as they are having their equipment stolen. They may try and lock it up with padlocks and chains, or they don't use anything. So we've been talking to the gardeners with the help of Aldo Cervantes at Community Development. We're handing out, along with my officers, flyers on warning gardeners of ways to protect themselves, keep their equipment. And we're also looking at the idea of, not an idea, but we're going to ask our community members to allow their gardeners to park in the driveway of the house and park as far back as you can. When their trucks with all their equipment is left on the street, these people drive up real quick, jump out. A couple of them will grab a lawnmower, will grab a blower or something, and those things are $1,500 to $1,000. And that's really tough to replace. So if we can do those simple things for these people that work so hard for us. And then the other thing is package thefts. Many of you, like myself, have become addicted to Amazon. And I will let everyone know that, yes, I'm an addict to Amazon. And when we have packages delivered to the front of our house, there are bad guys that are driving behind the delivery trucks. There are people driving up and down the streets looking for packages that are left by the gate, by the front door, and they'll take advantage of that opportunity and take your property. We're doing a couple things. One, we're trying to remind everybody there's alternatives to this. You can, like myself, pay for a mailbox business where all your packages are delivered there. There's a couple here in town. The other things you can arrange with the company to have them delivered to a different location, to your business, to maybe your neighbor who's home, or like Amazon, they have lockers. And some of those lockers are in different places. I've been working with Amazon. They've approved us to have a locker within the city. And we're looking at a couple different locations, either around City Hall or over by the library. They have to assess the location, but I see one of those lockers coming our way sometime in the future. They can't give me a direct time, but we're doing some different things. We're trying to be as innovative as we can, but we need your help. Larcenies are very preventable. The other area that we are having problems with are commercial burglaries. People are staying home, so our residential burglaries are down quite a bit, but businesses are left closed with no one around. Currently, we're looking for a couple different suspects that we've ID'd, and we were able to identify the suspects through the camera system that we put in place. We have 22 cameras throughout the city that are license plate readers. It's from a company called Flock Safety. You may have seen them. We try and have them very as unobtrusive as possible. And they are providing us information immediately. And we are also been able to capture a couple stolen vehicles as they've driven through the city because of these great cameras. It's a great system. We're very happy about it. Always happy to talk about it that much more to anybody else at another time. Or if you have questions, you can always email me. The other area that I wanted to speak about is community engagement. We recently had a block captain Zoom meeting, and we were able to have 25 of our block captains participate in that meeting. We were able to give them an update on events within the city, crime statistics, and we listened to them, and they told us about ways that we can communicate better. They told us about what was important for them and for their neighbors, and a couple things that we got out of that. We're going to have another meeting on a regular basis, maybe every 6 weeks or so. We're also going to be providing our monthly statistics on crime, on traffic issues to the block captains to distribute to their members within their neighborhood. And we're going to be looking at different ways to communicate and be much more effective in our communication. The last thing I want to talk about is police reform. There's a lot of things going on in Congress. There's a lot of things going on in state legislature, but I just want to let you know what we're doing here in San Marino. Before the incident in Minnesota occurred, we had already planned to have a bias policing training put on by the Museum of Tolerance from the Simon Wiesenthal Center. They provide some excellent training to help officers understand about their biases, whether it's implicit or explicit bias. And it makes us better police officers. It makes us better servants to the community. We also on a regular basis participate in training on ethics, on different aspects of understanding bias, racial differences, and also on an ongoing basis, we participate with other agencies and the county Department of Mental Health on mental health education and training. Those are required subjects for our sergeants and for our training officers, along with our officers that receive it, but the training officers in particular and sergeants, and even myself, we receive it on a much more regular basis. So we always have questions. If you have any questions about what we do, how we do it, why we do it, we're always available to answer those questions. But most importantly, even with the calls for police reform, I have to thank this community. You have been behind us. You have supported us. You have made my officers feel very proud of working here and serving this community. I myself, 5.5 years plus, I can't agree with my officers more. I truly love working for this community and with this community. And thank you for your support. And again, with support comes responsibility and accountability, and we are there for both. Thank you very much. If any questions, I'm available.
Thanks so much, Chief. I did see that a question popped up earlier related to COVID, so let me just go ahead and answer that question. The question was, how many cases are we up to in San Marino? And as of the last correspondence with the County Department of Public Health, which means as of yesterday, we were at 65 cases. There is an email actually that they send out every day if you sign up. I don't know exactly what the link is, but on the County of Los Angeles Public Health Department page, there is a place you can go to sign up for notifications, and they do email out the counts every day. So that was our most recent one. Lauren, I know that you are muted at the moment, but would you like us to just roll into the next one, or is there something else you'd like to do first?
Well, I'd just like to say one thing. I'm no longer working in San Marino anymore, but I was there a long time, obviously. And I'll tell you what, in all those times working in the school district in one capacity or another, police and the fire department, especially with John and Mario, have just been amazing. They're responsive to everything. As kind of Mario said, they don't know if they're going to get it, but I don't think I've ever found them not knowing it. So just want to thank both of you guys for running your department so well and for the relationship you've been able to have with the school. So thank you. And now, Dr. Merlo, it's your
All right, back at it. Okay. Thank you again very much, of course. We appreciate, again, the opportunity to be here to talk to you about the San Marino Center. If whoever it is can start the PowerPoint presentation. Great. All right. You can go ahead to the next slide. So I'm just going to provide a brief intro into what we're going to be talking about here tonight, and then I'm actually going to turn it over to our Community Development Director. Okay, so as you can see from the slide here, we've actually been discussing matters related to the San Marino Center for quite some time. As Lauren was kind enough to read in my bio, I have been in San Marino as your city manager since late 2017. And the discussion about the San Marino Center and recreation, which are two related topics, certainly have been talked about since my arrival. So we are very pleased to be moving forward and happy to be with you today. So obviously I am present tonight. As I mentioned, our Community Development Director, Aldo Cervantes, will be here actually doing tonight's presentation. Our Parks and Public Works Director, City Engineer Michael Throne is here, should there be questions related. And our Interim Community Services Director, Josette Espinosa, is also present as a panelist and can weigh in should there be relevant questions for her. And then we are also joined by our Acting Community Engagement Manager, Amanda Merlo, who is taking notes on what we are saying and helping us to see if there's anything that we need to follow up on after the meeting, or recording the notes that we need to get to our architect. So we are all here to take your comments and offer you some information. Again, as you can see from this slide, there's been discussion about the San Marino Center itself. There's also been discussion about the San Marino Center usage, and that's been under discussion. I don't need to go through all these points. I know you all can read through it for yourself. Go ahead to the next slide, if you will. Thank you much. So this is just a quick sense of where we are and where we're going. We have already received approval to proceed with the design project. So all of the discussion about whether or not to proceed with design has already occurred, and the City Council did indeed vote to move forward with the design project. The City Council also directed the formation of a community task force that would assist the city in advising on design matters. You can see the members there. We're very excited. It's a great cross section of our community, people who are very well respected, and we're really eager to hear what they have to say to us. And I think we have a couple of them here tonight listening in. So thank you so much, task force members, for being here tonight. Where we are is this area highlighted in yellow. We are now in the community engagement process. The council directed us to do some robust engagement, and that is part of our roadshow, and we are very happy to be taking our roadshow here tonight. As Lauren mentioned earlier, the San Marino Center and City Club have a long relationship. It is an important partnership to us, and And we wouldn't be anywhere if we didn't have a chance to meet with you all and have a conversation with you about what it might look like and how it might proceed. You are really one of our most important partners in terms of users. In the future, on September 9th, we will be taking a design to the City Council for approval, and they'll have the opportunity to either approve the design, to reject the design altogether, or to approve the design and direct some changes as well. So we will be going back on September 9th for that to get that approval. Before I turn it over to Aldo, who's actually going to take over the presentation, I just want to thank Lauren again. We did get a couple of questions in advance of this meeting that I guess some people were hoping that we would answer. And sadly, as it turns out, actually, those are not questions that we were planning to answer tonight in the presentation. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes and just address those questions right now so that you can get your answers. And then we can get back to the meat of what the council's asked us to do, which is talk to you tonight about design elements. So one of the questions was to talk about any anticipated new fees to be generated by the renovation of the San Marino Center. And it is not intended to generate any new fees. The expectation of the council is that this would be turned into a community center that would be used by the community, not to be turned into a revenue generating banquet hall or rental facility or those sorts of things. Although, of course, we would still want to do our rentals to the groups that are part of the community that have been using it historically. Next question was about the expected uses of the new building. So this was part of the dialogue that we had with the council about the newly re-envisioned recreation programming. And what we spoke about was that it would essentially be parallel to what happens over in the library, which is that their library programs run over there, community events are run over there, and then of course the library staff is also housed over there. So we would anticipate that at the San Marino Center, there'll be community events like this one, there'll be some recreation programming, and then it would also house the recreation staff. There's a question about maintenance costs for the new building, and of course we haven't built it yet, and we don't even have a construction plan yet because we don't have a design yet. So the maintenance costs are not clear at this point. But the good news about maintenance of a new building is that it will be planned and we'll know when those expenses are going to come, which is different from now, when emergencies happen quickly without notice and are very costly to fix because we weren't able to plan for them. Which takes me to the next question, which is why does it need to be renovated in the first place? When I saw this question, I was sad that we were not actually meeting live in the San Marino Center because I would have pointed up at some of the ceiling tiles, which have significant water damage. We have, to say significant ADA issues is an understatement. There are issues with the heating and cooling systems in the facility. There are things that are broken and so forth. And that's separate from even just maximizing its usage. And then last but not least, why is this a priority initiative for this year? And the short and sweet answer to that is because the council deemed it so. When we go through the budget process each year, we, staff and the council brainstorm on a number of projects that could be priority initiatives for the upcoming year. The council then pares that list down. We then have some dialogue with the community at a town hall meeting, and then the council has another chance to choose which of those would be priority initiatives. The council does have one final shot to change their minds when they actually do the adoption of the budget. And at each of those stages, the San Marino Center renovation was deemed to be a priority to the council. So that is why we are here. I apologize to Director Cervantes for taking some of his time for that, but I thought maybe we could just knock those questions out now, and then he can get to the design portion. So thank you again for having us here. We really appreciate it. And without any further ado, again, I will turn it over to Community Development Director Aldo Cervantes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Merlo. Next slide, please. I know we went through a couple of these just now through Dr. Marlowe's presentation. She did briefly go through some of these items. I will repeat some of them and give a little bit of detail, but the bulk of the presentation is the next slide, which we'll go over very shortly. So some of the major points about the project include some of the following listed on this slide. The use of the building will remain the same. The San Marino Center will continue to host a lot of community events, as well as meetings, host recreation programming, and be available for rental opportunities. Now, this has been sort of the ongoing use of this building since the building was developed in 1952. None of that is going to change. The building structure will remain also unchanged with the exception of those elements that are really needed and mandated by state and also city code with respect to accessibility requirements. These are ADA requirements. We're talking about path of travel. We're talking about bathroom renovations to ADA parking stalls that right now are not in adherence to city or state law. The project includes the replacement of some of the obsolete mechanical systems, as was mentioned prior. Some of the HVAC systems are not working, are not functioning. Electrical systems are also not functioning, as well as some of the plumbing systems are also in disrepair. There are some elements of the building, I would say, that I consider to be bad decisions of the past, and we're looking to sort of correct some of those bad decisions. There's a lot of patchwork on the building. There are some additions to the building that we are going to really do our best to try to create more seamless transitions between the existing 1952 building with those additions that were done in the past. And as Dr. Merlo mentioned, this is a priority initiative by the council, as adopted by the council as well for this fiscal year. Next slide, please. So these are some of the major questions that we want to ask, that we've been asking throughout this outreach program. They're related to really the architectural style of the building, the design of the building. We mentioned some of the mechanical components, electrical components, and plumbing components that sort of are accessory to the redesigning of this building. And so the major question that we have for this group, and also groups in the past as well as moving forward, is that the building is a mid-century, 1950s mid-century modern building. And so the question is, do we maintain that architectural style, or do we adopt the style of the nearby structures, which is the middle school, the Kroll Public Library, and the Barth Athletic Facility, as well as the district offices that are all Spanish style buildings? And so the major question is exactly that. Do we maintain the mid-century modern feel and look of the building, which one could easily argue is also a residential style looking building? Or do we pivot to a different design, more in characteristics or consistency with the surrounding buildings that I just laid out? Some of the other questions that we'll pose to the group is related to outdoor courtyards, outdoor activities, outdoor spaces, which there's a heavy opportunity for the redesigning of this building. And really, what do those outdoor features look like? Are there outdoor fireplaces, outdoor seating arrangements, that kind of thing? Of course, it goes without saying that during the construction of this project, we will be protecting the existing mature trees surrounding the property. Along with that, there's the idea of course, introducing new landscaping to the building, or to the grounds of the building. There's a discussion or questions about meeting rooms and whether they should be larger or smaller. Of course, there's the stage that we hope will remain, and we plan to keep it in its exact location. Think of this building, think of the main message of this building as being a sort of a remodel of a sort of a traditional residential style building. Outside of that of the use, if you walk up to the San Marino Center, as you see it from Huntington Drive, it does give you that impression of a residential style building. And so the goal here in the message should be that we're looking to renovate and remodel or refresh the building, similar to that of how a residential property owner would refresh or remodel a newly purchased building or newly purchased residential home, or a home that they've held in their possession for many, many years. And so that is the key message, is that we're looking to refresh the building and to do certain remodels to correct some of those deficiencies, correct some of those bad decisions, and sort of create a building and develop a building that the community could be proud of. Next slide, please. And so I mentioned the outreach program that we've been now steadfast on for the last couple of weeks, and also moving into the next couple of weeks as well. Our next meeting is design review tomorrow, amongst some of the lists that you see there on the slide, as well as of our up and coming meetings that anyone can certainly participate in, provide comments, and reach out to the staff if they see fit. We have a questionnaire being floated throughout the city to help answer some of the questions that I just went over. There's the email address of smc@cityofsanmarino.org. That is the email that was established to facilitate receiving the comments from the public, as well as a dedicated phone number that way you can call to get that message through to the city. Now, understanding the way that this meeting has been organized, I wanted to get through all my slides and, of course, get through the Q&A session. And so we are at that time of this meeting to ask for comments and feedback about the project. If we can go back to the last slide to present or display some of those questions, and I'll ask some of our staff if they can highlight or select a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. It will display the questions that are being asked. That way we can take proper notes of what the public would like to say about this project. Again, we are interested in receiving comments about the design of the building, and as well as some of these questions that are on this screen. But the main component here is, do we keep the mid-century modern design of this building, or do we pivot to be more consistent with the neighborhood? And so at that point, I like to open up for the Q&A or comments and feedback section of this presentation. Thank you.
Hi, Aldo. Thanks for that. I don't see any questions in the Q&A quite yet, but Lauren did have one question, and his question is, if the footprint isn't changing, but you are adding, for example, places for rec staff, will there be less seating capacity, and will a kitchen still be a part of the building?
Yeah, these are all great questions, and nothing is set in stone at this point. We have preliminary designs, just kind of brainstorming and looking through the thought process of how we want to use the space more efficiently. Part of that thought process, of course, is modernizing the kitchen and creating more of a catering type kitchen. That is, sort of what a lot of the users so far have been indicating to us as one of the things that they like to see. The Bridge Club, as well as a chamber, would love to see a more modern type of kitchen in the space. The other question, or the first question, was about recreation offices. Yes, part of the project is to look at incorporating at least about, I want to say about 10% of the building towards recreation offices. And I will say this, that being that it's such a small space that they would be occupying, a majority of the building will essentially look very similar to how you see it now. A lot of the multi-purpose rooms, the stage area, those will all remain intact. And so, and as you know, as a user yourselves, that is a priority of this city to maintain that area.
We have a question from Dick Pearson here. How do we participate in the coming Zoom meetings? I'm assuming you're talking about future meetings. We'll be announcing those meetings as soon as we set up those webinars. So hopefully that answers your question, Dick. Let us know if not, just go ahead and put in another Q&A there. We do have a question from Maria. Are we talking about renovating the existing building or leveling it and starting over?
Yeah, not at all. We're not at this point talking about, it's not even a question in our minds about whether we want to level the building or remodel the building. This is clearly a remodeling of the building that's there now. We're not looking to increase the size. We're not looking to demolish any part of this building. What you see right now in terms of the massing, the scale, and the volume will all remain. Now, we could be talking about replacing some of the stucco finishes, painting the stucco itself. Those are all parts of the project. Of course, replacing the natural wood shake roof. But a lot of what you see there now will be kept aside from sort of a refreshing of the exterior.
Although, is part of this process going to be other future Zoom meetings for the city residents? And how can people reach you to comment
on their opinion as to whether or not we should incorporate it with the city's surrounding elements, or whether or not we should maintain the existing elements. Like, I think that given the artificial nature here, how do we interact with you in an effective manner? Is there an email? What can we do?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. If we go to the last slide of the presentation, I'd like to share with the group and everyone that's on the Zoom call. The last slide, if we can pull it up. There we go. These are all of our up and coming meetings to date. We are establishing Zoom credentials for all of these meetings, and we'll be putting these meetings not only on our social media sites, but also our website. So if you'd like to join our social media sites, City of San Marino, of course, on Facebook and Twitter, you're able to keep in touch with the city with respect to these meetings and their credentials for joining those meetings. The biggest question, Kelly, in that was how do you get a hold of staff to ask questions and provide comments? At the very bottom of this slide, there's an email address and a phone number. I want to provide a lot more emphasis on the email address, smc@cityofsanmarino.org. Anyone in this city can use that email address to send us comments or feedback or questions about this project. It is proven to be the one valuable tool that we have so far with respect to receiving comments. Some of the other pieces that we're looking to add to increase the outreach program is you'll notice on the outside of San Marino Center very soon, and today we had a poster board of a picture of the San Marino Center along with flyers that you can easily grab and fill out. There's a Dropbox as well. You can use that method to either draw on that poster board any comments that you have, maybe even provide some suggestions on the design of the building, and fill out the questionnaire that's part of the packet there, and then drop it off in the boxes that's right there on the ground. Of course, we can come up with many other types of ideas to help with our outreach program, but those are the ones we have so far. We're looking at a mailer coming out very soon, some brochure, I guess, to say the least, or a postcard that will also help with the outreach program for the city on this project.
I thought for sure you were going to say that there was a locked mailbox outside the front of City Hall that they could fight their way in. My specific question, and I think is a good follow-up, are you looking for specific input into design features, or are you just looking for general comments related to the question you've posed in your presentation here, which is what option A or option B, or is there other specific elements that we should be commenting on?
Well, it's really both, Kelly, because right now the question, like I said, is do we keep the mid-century modern building that everyone knows and has sort of grown to love for many years, or do we take the building and use this opportunity for a refreshing of the building to change the architectural style? And that architectural style is a Spanish style. Now, those of you that are on this meeting who understand architectural styles and what makes a Spanish building or mid-century building can certainly understand the challenges from taking an original design and adding elements to call it, a Spanish or something else. And so that is a challenge that we face now. It's a question that we asked of the public to help us understand what the need is so far. I will say this, though, that in prior town hall meetings and meetings that we've had to date, a majority of the public has indicated fairly strongly that they'd like to keep the mid-century modern look of the building. And so if that proves to be our direction moving forward, then Kelly, to answer your question more specifically in terms of details, we're looking at what kind of roof material do you want to see on the building? Do you want it to be a more modernized cementatious type of product that looks like wood? Do we want to look to reincorporate natural wood shake back onto the building? In terms of the finish, everyone knows that is a textured stucco finish. Do we keep that, or do we go with a smooth finish on the building? These are the type of questions we want to ask, the type of details that we're asking for. The windows, of course, are a major piece to any architectural building, and we're looking to replace these windows as well. Some of them are original steel casement windows. There are some wood windows as well that are fixed pane. There are also aluminum windows that I consider to be sort of that past mistake for this building. Those are the details that we're asking for. Do we replace the windows? What kind of windows do we replace them with? I know Andrew Yip had a question about looking at sustainability and preservation. That's a great question, and part of Andrew's question is looking at those windows. And when we replace those windows, that is probably the easiest renovation to this building that will affect the sustainability and energy efficiency of the building. Of course, a lot of it is with the drywall and installation of the building, the mechanical systems, making sure they're efficient. Andrew, to answer your question, yes, that is a major component to this renovation project. It is a mandate of state law that we look to renovate the building to make it more energy efficient. So Kelly and Andrew, I hope I answered your question kind of in a mix there.
I believe Dick Pearson did have a question, and I misunderstood his question. Dick, you can actually click the unmute button on your screen there, and you can go ahead and ask your question if you're listening, if you're still there. Nope. Crickets.
Are you going to renovate the bathrooms? Because I've got some graffiti in a couple of the stalls. So is there going to be big changes?
Yeah, and we talked about that as well. It is one of those, again, I keep going back to past mistakes of renovating the building. If you notice, the restrooms now, they have been remodeled in the past. But in order to gain access to either one of the restrooms, you have to access them via the common areas. And so what we're looking to do is we want to take it back to the 1952 project, which had the restroom facilities tied through the lobby system. So if you're conducting several meetings in the large meeting rooms, you have to essentially go into someone else's meeting to enter the bathroom as it is right now. And so the hope is to renovate those restrooms, to modernize those restrooms, not only for modernization, but also accessibility, but also take it back to that 1950s building, which originally had the bathrooms accessible off the lobby.
Hi, this is Dick Pearson. Apologize. Question I had was, how do I get notice of the Zoom meetings that you describe in your list? And two, how do you get access to what the proposed interior is supposed to look like? In the way, how do you divide it up? Do you make it into smaller spaces? Do you make it into bigger spaces? Can you close certain areas up? Can you open them up? Those kinds of questions.
Yeah, those are great questions, and you can certainly reach out to the city using that SMC at cityofsanmarino.org email address. The city is on Twitter, and the city is also on Facebook. You can certainly join those two social media sites to gain access to up-and-coming meetings, advertisement of up-and-coming meetings, as well as what those Zoom credentials will be for those meetings as well. Again, the city website also provides that information, and so you can always log yourself into the website and look for that information as well. The second question that you had is what do we do with the spaces, and how do we get that information out to the public? As I mentioned in prior slides, we have a lot of brainstorming sessions so far with staff as to what the interior spaces are going to look like. And we'll be reaching out to a lot of the users, including City Club users, to really understand what the needs are of the users, because that's going to sort of be the ongoing operations of the building. And we want to make it efficient for everyone on this Zoom call, as well as anyone else that are heavy users for the facility. The major multi-purpose space where the stage is located will remain intact. We are talking about incorporating accordion doors that could subdivide the building into 3 or 4 spaces. That way we can have multiple meetings in each of these spaces, rather than, as you know, right now, there is one bifolding or accordion door that bisects the whole building and really just creates 2 spaces. We're looking at creating more spaces by the use of that same technology. And so the soonest we could generate that floor plan, the sooner we can get it out to the public for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there a projected timeline? Like, have you got it into phases at this point, design phase, and then out to bid? When do you expect to actually break ground?
Well, at this point, to take that in pieces, the council last month adopted or certified the contract of Rick Crane, who is going to be our architect. And so part of that process, as soon as you onboard the architect, you go through a process of receiving comments from the public. Why this is so critical for the staff and for the architect is we're able to understand sort of the needs of the community, and we take those needs and we incorporate those needs into the building. In this case, being that this is a renovation type project, we're looking at heavily as far as the interior spaces, how they can be used, how can they be more efficient. Mr. Pearson had a great question about how do you make the spaces more efficient? Do you create more rooms? And that's in fact what we're doing, is we're looking to create more spaces for the community to use, whether it's a rental or some of the heavy users that use it on a daily basis. And so the next step, of course, is after we receive the public comments, we're able to give those comments to Rick Crane, our architect, to essentially create the designs of this building, whether from the interior components to the exterior look of the building. And as soon as that's accomplished, we have to, of course, take that design or those designs to the council for final consideration. Breaking ground is really not in our mindset right now, because we want to be dedicated at this moment in time to receiving your comments. Think about next year as far as groundbreaking, but not anytime soon. Any other questions?
I was just hoping Marcella would weigh in, because she's the boss.
Well, I would happily weigh in, Kelly. But Aldo really has described the situation. We really are focused on design right now. The council put the design in the budget. The construction is not in the budget at this point, so we would need to go back to the council to get an appropriation of funds for that. If the design is in fact approved, even if it's approved with changes on September 9th, then we would get an actual set of plans drawn up. We would go out to bid for construction. With any luck, we'd be in front of the council maybe in January of 2021 with that proposal, and then we can start that process rolling as well. But Aldo is right when he says we're really focused on the design right now. The city council was pretty clear with us in multiple meetings that the only way they'd be willing to move forward on the design is if we had some significant community engagement and really heard what everyone was trying to tell us. So that really is our full focus right now. Does that work for you?
Following up on, it
Yeah.
works great. So following up on Dick's question then, for these additional meetings, are you planning to have some type of questionnaire, a community questionnaire, so that residents can vote, some type of survey?
Yes.
For those ideas?
Yes, so Aldo actually mentioned it. We are developing a survey. It's about 7 questions, I think, if I remember correctly, plus or minus 1 or 2. And we do have materials. We've been working on translating it into Chinese as well. It's an important part of our community. And one of our other priority initiatives this year was to be sure that we were engaged in robust engagement with our Chinese community. So a fact sheet as well as the survey will be coming out in both languages. We have a meeting with the Chinese Club tomorrow where we are providing an interpreter to be sure that everybody hears the messages and has an ample opportunity to provide us with feedback. So that survey will be getting out there within the next week. And Aldo also mentioned there's gigantic posters right now in front of City Hall and the San Marino Center that people can go mark up directly with a pen and make your comments on. We also will have packets of information available. People can come and pick up by hand the fact sheet, a more user-friendly size rendering of the building, and the survey questions and just write on that, that document itself. So we're going to have a lot of opportunity for people to give us feedback in whatever way they're comfortable. You can draw and color on the picture, provide us comments via email, call us, reach out to us in any way that's comfortable for you, and we will find a way to take your input.
Awesome.
Kelly just
Well,
kept
maybe
asking
Lauren will weigh in.
because my adjournment was scheduled for 8 o'clock. He didn't want to see me hit it right on the nose, so he had to ask more questions. But thank you, Aldo, very much appreciated. Dr. Merlo, thank you for reaching out to us to be able to sponsor this. And so I think we're going to move for adjournment right now. And we appreciate you all joining us. And so you all be well and stay safe, and we will see you before long.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye all.